The following is a special presentation of TNN Motorsports. The 1997 NHRA Winston drag racing season is young. It's very young. So are some of its competitors. Say hello to Kristen Powell. She won't be 18 till next month. She's already been a factor in qualifying at Pomona. Speaking of qualifying, watch one of the quickest side-by-side runs ever. Bernstein, 462. Selzy, 464. Joe Amato on the far lane. The quickest run ever. 4.58 sets a new national record. All was not peaches and cream for Al Hoffman. No sponsor, a lot of parts, and a lot of trouble in qualifying. Randy Anderson banged the wall in practice out in Phoenix a week ago. Wasn't licensed until Monday, but he got all the parts in his America car running well and qualified with a 507. It's more than Ron Capps could say. The new driver for Don Prudhomme failed to make the cut, a DNQ in his first race in funny car. There are now 11 members of the Holly 6 Second Club. The newest member, Troy Copland, 697 in qualifying. Speaking of qualifying, that's something the Dodge boys didn't do. Scott Jeffrion and Darrell Alderman were here with Dale Ikey's team. They failed to make the cut. Did that dampen the spirits of the Dodge fans? Nope, because Alan Johnson qualified with his dad's car. We have got a phenomenal day of racing coming up. It's live right here on TNN.
For over 40 years, a patch of pavement known as Pomona Raceway has been home to history. For in a corner of the sprawling fairgrounds outside of Los Angeles, a hobby was born that has grown into an international industry. Pomona is a name spoken with a hushed reverence for the pioneering cars and stars that have streaked down its quarter mile. And ever since 1961, it has been the site of the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals, the kickoff event of the drag racing season. Through the decades, the cars have changed, velocities have climbed, while elapsed times have plummeted. And where once there was only dirt, today has become a 21st century showplace of speed. From all over the U.S. and a dozen foreign lands, fans have flocked to Pomona, the West Coast mecca of drag racing. And not one has been disappointed in the racing or the weather. Both have been superb. And for you at home, we have saved the best for last. Here live on TNN, the finals of the Cheap Auto Parts Winternationals. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans. Bob Fry gave you some numbers on the track. How about some more numbers? Over 100,000 fans over the weekend, 750 race cars, and of course, they're attracted by a whole lot of cash, over $1.5 million. And to be honest, Pomona is my favorite racetrack in the world. I was born in this city, went to high school 20 minutes away in Monrovia, and raced everything from flatheads to fuel dragsters right here when the tower was a hunk of plywood. Now, our other commentator coming up next here also loves this racetrack, but for another reason. You see, he came here with a funny car as a rookie back in 1990 with very limited experience in an alcohol car. A ragtag crew out of Tennessee, barely qualified, beat John Force in round number 1, and in the final, he took out Ed the Ace McCullough. But that's not where the story ends. After a long layoff, he came back in 1994, same car, same crew, and did it again. This time he beat Al Hoffman. By now, you've figured it out. He is Casey Hollywood Spurlock.
Thanks, Steve, and I'm very happy to be the newest member of the TNN broadcasting team. And I've got to tell you, after this morning's show, I've got a brand new respect for you and Bob Fry. In fact, there's only been one problem all weekend long. The executive producer said, "Hey, Spurlock, you're not a driver anymore. You're a host, and hosts don't wear sunglasses." So here we go, race fans. Off with the sunglasses. Let's go to our buddy Bob Fry up in the tower.
What are the odds we can get that same producer to tell him to shave maybe next time? Welcome to KC, and it's great to have you here with us live on TNN. I know I get paid to hype things up and tell you how great the show is going to be, but I will tell you this. We're going to watch the single best day of Top Fuel drag racing you have ever seen, live or at the racetrack. All the racers worked hard just to get to this point to begin the 97 season. Last year, 10 different drivers found the winner's circle in the ultra-competitive world of Top Fuel. And coming into the 1997 season, it looks to be a repeat performance by the pack. But keep in mind that no one defends a throne like a reigning king. And no one attacks their quarry quite like a horde of hungry young lions. Add to that a been there, done that confidence of a pair of previous champions, and you have a nitro racing season that may do what many thought impossible, be even better than the year before. Here's the way they paired up in round number one. Gary Scelzi driving Team Winston for Alan Johnson, taking on Spike Gore along with Tommy Greer Jr. Vandergriff and Connie. Scott would like to put the number one back on his car. He's running out of the number 13 slot. Corey Mack would like to win with the Mickey D's entry. Kenny Bernstein right behind Scelzi in the number 2 position. Larry Dixon struggled a little bit. Joe Amato's right there in the number 3 spot. That's the way they paired up. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from round number one at Pomona.
Former Funny Car star Jim Epler is a new car owner in Top Fuel and very happy with his new driver, rookie female phenom, 17-year-old Kristen Powell. She came in here after a couple of years in the alcohol ranks, very little time in the Top Fuel car. On Thursday, looked like a veteran, 474, even lifted early when the engine nosed over. The crew loved that. Then on Saturday, she over-revved the engine and banged the blower. Not her fault. Somebody left the throttle stop off of the linkage. Ultimately, she nailed down the 7th spot with a 472, and watch what happened in round one today up against Larry Dixon and Don Perdome's car. See ya, Larry. Kristen Powell. Was she happy? Huh, I'd say so.
I am so happy right now. This is my first Top Fuel round that I've ever won, and I'm so glad.
And at a low 470, almost 300 miles an hour, are you comfortable? Totally comfortable?
I'm getting pretty comfortable. I mean, I'm still a little nervous. It's my first race, and it was really hard going up first round, you know, I was shaking and stuff, but yeah, I'm getting there.
Kristen's packing the chute, getting ready to face off with Kenny Bernstein, who says he'd like to send her back to the mall. She's just way too good.
Don't you want to just reach out and pinch her cheeks? Here comes Shelly Anderson and the Parts America Haviland car. Bruce saw her on the far lane, and hey, she took a look at what the 17-year-old gal can do and says, you ain't seen nothing yet. Shelly Anderson would put down a monster run, 461, 315 miles per hour, and that would establish a brand new mile per hour mark and just bode well for things to come here at Pomona in round number one. Take a look at this now. Joe Amato up against Dave Prominence. Amato, who has won here many times. On the far side of the racetrack, has seen the ladies win twice. He watched Shelly go 461, and he said, you ain't seen nothing yet. I can do it one better. He runs 458, gets 35 grand from the folks at MBNA, and he had a chat with Steve Evans.
I may send you airborne with this. A 458.
Oh, Steve, unbelievable, unbelievable. What a run. It almost crossed the center line about 1,250 feet down there. I had to kind of steer it back. It got me a little nervous there, but you know, they're a tough team, and in the first round of the race, first race of the year, you just get all pumped up and you want to try and go out and do your job.
What a spectacular opening round for most of the folks, except for, well, Mike Dunn, the Mopar machine of Darrell Gwynn. Great onboard camera shot. Things look like they're going pretty well. Well, they look like they were going pretty well. Don't believe that it's supposed to go like that. So Mike Dunn was out of here, and we had 8 very fast winners advancing into the second round. Scelzi against Connie Coletta. Scott goes against Corey Mack in the Mickey D's entry. On the other side of the ladder, you're going to get a chance to look at Kenny Bernstein against the young cherubic Kristen Powell. It'll be Joe Amato and Shelly Anderson in a battle of great cars. Let's go to the pits now and get some updates. Here's KC without the sunglasses.
Kenny Bernstein, I know you're not happy watching Joe Amato run that 458, But you've got a little secret here in the pits. You've got Dale Armstrong horsepower. What are you going to do in the second round?
That's true. I am happy for Joe. A 4:58, that's a tremendous run by anybody. You know, you're sitting there with a 4:62 and you're the third quickest of the first round. You wonder what's going on. But let me tell you, we'll do it as much as we can with a Budweiser Prolong car to make it run good. You have to attack each round, as you know, Casey, today. Round by round is all we're trying to do. And if we can have 4.62s in a row, I'd take my chances.
We've got more coming up. We'll take a look at funny car action right here live on TNN from the season opening Chief Winternationals in Pomona, California. TNN's exclusive live coverage of the 37th annual Chief Auto Parts Winternationals is brought to you by Valvoline DuraBlend, the #1 selling semi-synthetic motor oil. And by Mopar, Chrysler Corporation Parts, and the Chrysler, Plymouth, Dodge, Jeep, and Eagle dealers who sell and install them. During the brief off-season, drag racing history was made, not at 300 miles an hour, but at a walking pace. Because when John Force took the stage to be honored as the Driver of the Year, it signaled a milestone achievement for the entire sport of drag racing. As the 1997 season kicks off, there's a bevy of high-velocity veterans who want to knock Force off his pedestal, as well as a bumper crop of new talent demanding a piece of the action. Funny car may no longer be thought of as a force of habit. One habit that continues, Force is #1. He's got Wyatt Radke in the opening round. Young Randy Anderson against the Kendall car. Tony Pendergon with the Napa machine of Tim Wilkerson and Kenji and Whit Bazemore in Team Winston as they pair up on one side of the ladder. The #2 guy right behind John Force, Al Hoffman, who beat him here last year in the finals, says he can do it again. Tommy Hoover's been running very well. Gary Bolger with Del Worship now getting some sponsorship, and Cruz Pendergon. Let's take a look at some of those round one highlights from earlier today here at Pomona. A habit that nobody wants to get into is what Wyatt Radke does over on the right side of your screen. John Force, the #1 qualifier, and the odds-on favorite to win it here today. He would have a little off the pace run at 5:32, but nothing like what happened to Wyatt. Wow. Radke's body came back down. He was okay as he brought the car to a halt. John Force got the win at 5:32. Wasn't all inspiring, but he was in round 2, and Steve caught up with him in the pit area.
Everybody knows that John Force is a General Motors kind of guy. He won the championship last year with a Pontiac. His teammate finished second, Tony Pendergon, of Pontiac. They both rolled out here on Thursday's Pontiac funny cars. How about a shocker? Tony Pendergon on Friday shows up in the lanes with a Ford Mustang. I said, John, how are you going to pull this deal off corporately? He said, that's Tony's car. If he's a Ford guy, that's fine. They want to support him, that's fine with me. Tony can do anything he wants. My name is nowhere on this car. Only John Force can pull this deal off. But fans, what do you think? You like seeing a Ford here? Mustang? Hey, now when they race each other, they won't be identical.
About the only thing that might be identical is they both keep chalking up wins. This is Tony and that Ford, and on the far side, Tim Wilkerson and the Napa machine. Wilkerson ran very well last year, won a few rounds, made some runs, and got down into that 4-second club that the folks from Castrol have put together. He would run a great 5:03. Not good enough to beat a 5:02. Here comes the McDonald's machine. This is Cruz Pendergon in the far lane against Geronimo. Richard Hartman, who qualified in the #11 position. The Mickey D's driver shaved his mustache. Figures it might bring him some better luck this year. I don't think so, Tim. Look at that, right down Broadway. We got a winner, and Geronimo goes to round 2. Richard Hartman's continued to throw out some big numbers. The folks from AAA had about 1 million people on hand here this weekend. They've got their team driver, Gary Densham. On the far lane, it's showtime. Tom Hoover ran 5:08 qualifying. Watch this one. Hoover goes 5:01 and gets the win. The far end of the racetrack, Steve had a very happy driver.
Not only is Tom Hoover's funny car one of the most beautiful ever built, it's now one of the quickest, a career best 5:01.
Oh my gosh, Corey, David, we worked so hard on 01. It ran 08 the other day very easy, and you guys keep telling me it's going to be a 4-second year, and I'm looking forward to a great year.
I think it's going to be 4 second and 300.
Thank you, buddy.
Look at this.
Hey, that's Corey Lee he was talking about. I have no idea who Buddy is. We're in car on board with the Western Auto Parts America Haviland machine of Randy Anderson. He finally got it settled down, qualified well. He would go against Chuck Etchells. Whoop, I'm pretty sure I saw Chuck zip by in the right. Yes, indeedy, and Etchells takes his Kendall car into the next round with a brilliant 5 flat. And Chuck Etchells put Randy Anderson on the trailer here in front of the home crowd. That would set up round number 2. Force and Etchells, a big one. Force took him out in round 1 last year. Tony Pendragon against Team Winston. And the still healing Whit Bazemore. Over there on the other side, Al Hoffman, who has been quick and fast and right with Force all weekend, gets showtime. And Tom Hoover and the independent Gary Bolger goes against Richard Hartman in the next round. Let's take a closer look at Tom Hoover. He's had a great start to the 97 season. Let's go into the pits with Casey Spurlock.
I'm in the Tom Hoover pit area with Corey Lee, Tom's new crew chief on the Pioneer entry. And Corey, you've prepared what is arguably the most beautiful funny car in the pit area, but you really have this car running strong as well.
For the 4th try, it wasn't bad. I've learned a lot. I've been given a great opportunity here by the Pioneer Group and Tom Hoover, and I'm trying to do my best job possible. I hope it works out well.
Tom Hoover's won this race in the past. Okay, so it was almost 20 years ago, but hey, time to put another W up on the board, he hopes. We'll take a look at Pro Stock in just a moment. As exciting as the fuel cars have been, the Pro Stock is equally as exciting. Stick around. More coming up live from Pomona here on TNN. Only 2.5 years ago, Kurt Johnson became the first Pro Stock driver to venture into the 6-second zone. But today, if you can't run a 6, you might as well stay at home. Kicking off the 97 season, only 6 spots remain in the Holly 6-second club. And as more and more veterans and some of the relative newcomers find the magic zone, Pro Stock is no longer the exclusive playground of such superstars as the Professor Warren Johnson or Winston champion Burgermeister Jim Yates. Burgermeister, who writes this stuff? Anyway, Yates is at the top of the pack. Dexter Cambron out of Kentucky in the 16 hole. Schmidt and Pete Williams with his new Pontiac. Jerry Ekman's got a new sponsor and continues to run well. KJ's got a new baby, a new look, and a new attitude. Warren Johnson right behind Yates in qualifying. It's Alan Johnson. That's the Dodge. Slick, Smith, and Alan. Troy, I'm in the 6-second club, and you're not Coughlin. Frank Iaconio always runs well here, and so does Mark Power. Let's take a look at those highlights from earlier in round number 1. Well, you might as well start at the top. That's Dexter Cambron in the near lane. He's out of Philpott, Kentucky. On the far side, it's Jim Yates, the McDonald's car. Yates won it all last year, and he started by winning right here at Pomona. Didn't lose for the next 6 or 7 months. Came out of the gate, ran a strong pass, 697. Dexter fell back. There'll be no joy in Philpott tonight as Dexter Cambron is out of here. Steve had a chance to talk with the champ.
He was the bad boy in qualifying, and that continues in round 1. You didn't skate around apparently like everybody else. 696.
Whoa, that's great. That's great. Everybody was slipping around a little bit out there, and we put a click of wing in her. She went right down through the middle. I mean, it felt like it was on a pass. I mean, it was on like a rocket ship out there.
It was indeed. They just tilted that rear spoiler up, and that did it.
Hey, little click in the wing or whatever he was talking about. But anyway, he zinged his way right into round number 2. Warren Johnson, far side, taking on Alan Johnson, no relation. At least I don't think so. That's the Dodge here in the near lane. WJ News, and Yates has already gone to 96. He would want to keep pace. He would keep pace. 699 for the Professor. He runs a $197, and he zips in to round number 2.
After WJ's 699 in round 1, the Johnson family feeling very confident in their latest Lucky Charm. And it's not a rabbit's foot or Joe Amato Snoopy shorts. It's Connor Emery Johnson, 3rd generation, and Kathy, he's about a handsome lad.
Thank you very much, Steve. We're really glad to be here and hope to make the 4 rounds today.
Well, the big question now was, would this lad be as lucky for Daddy as he was for Grandpa?
You may be luckier.
Don't let your babies grow up to be drag racers.
Hey, at least Steve didn't try to sing it. Well, let's see. Here comes Daddy. Kind of want to reach out, pinch his cheeks, don't you? Not Steve's, the baby's. Well, it's Mike Edwards here. He won here last year. He was the co-rookie of the year. He was the Slick 50 driver of the year because he is so darn quick on the starting line. He got tattooed on the starting line by Kurt Johnson. And KJ never looked back. 7:01, and he gets the win. And Mike Edwards, you know, out of here. Here's a guy that won this race a couple of times back-to-back. He's Frank Iaconio out of New Jersey. Let's hear it for New Jersey. And the crowd went wild. On the far side, it's the Jake's car. 6-second club. Troy Coughlin. Iaconio driving for Barry Grant, who fell off one of those nasty motorcycles. Iaconio fell off the pace. Troy Coughlin gets the win at 6:99. That's the way it went in round one. Let's get an update in the pits with AC.
I'm in the Mark Powell Summit Racing pit area, and this is a team that is definitely encouraged by their early season performance. They ran a great 7:01 in qualifying, followed up by a 7:03 in the first round. What's made the change in this program? An engine development program that was moved from California back to the Ohio shops where they could keep a better eye on the gains that they were making in the horsepower department. This team is also hoping that this race will put them back on a winning streak by repeating their 1988 performance when Mark Powell was in the final round against Butch Leal.
Well, in the interest of fair reporting, Butch Leal won that race in '88. Dale Pooley also won in '88, and so did Dick LaHaye if you're scoring at home. But maybe better things hold for Mark Powell coming here today at the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals. It's Yates and Pete Williams. George Marnell against the new daddy, KJ. And the other side of the ladder, it's Daddy, WJ. Taking on Tricky, it's Coughlin, and it's Mark Powell. Some dynamite runs. If you ain't in the sixes, you ain't in the show. Let's go back to KC.
In today's high-tech world of pro stock racing, most advances in technology come through countless hours in the wind tunnel or in front of a computer, trying to come up with the latest speed secret just to go a little bit faster. How did Jim Yates and the McDonald's team come up with their latest speed secret? They stole it from Warren Johnson. That's right, the hood scoop you see on the car right now was the hood scoop that Warren Johnson debuted last year. Jerry Bickle, Dick Maskin got together, built this hood scoop just before the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals, and they've seen great gains. Now, Warren wasn't nice enough to let him use his mold to make this scoop. Jerry had to do that at home in the shop.
Boy, in all these times I thought WJ was a warm and fuzzy kind of guy. A little factoid there for you for Top Fuel cars. Lots of downforce on the rear tires. That's why we've had the great times here today. TNN's exclusive live coverage of the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals is brought to you by Peerless Faucet. Get more out of your faucet than just water. Wow, everybody just sit back and take a breath. The opening rounds have just been spectacular, and believe me when I tell you the best has yet to come. We had some of the most fantastic racing that we've ever had coming up here in the second rounds in our fuel categories. Some dynamite 6-second runs. I'm not going to tell you if we had a 200-mile-per-hour pass here or not yet, but we'll find out just a little bit later on. Let's take a look at Top Fuel ladders now as they pair up and start to go in to round number 2. It's Selzy and Connie. Both Colettas on one side of the ladder. Corey Mack will try to stop Scott from winning his third Winston Championship. And it's Kenny Bernstein against the young Kristen Powell, Joe and Shelley. Let's take a look at some of those highlights from what I think was the best single round in Top Fuel history ever. Now you watch, like Joe Gibbs is watching. I believe that's a little prayer. It's legal. You can do that. He's got Corey Mack coming up to the starting line. He's got Scott Collette in the other lane. He knows that Scott's won 2 Winston Championships. Ran very well here at the Winston Select Finals, the last race on this track, but he figures, hey, my boy can do it. He tells Corey, just go deep, take him out. Scott would run a 469 in the far lane. Would that be good enough? I don't think so. 465 for Corey Mack, 312 miles per hour in Team Mickey D's. No mustache, sailing along. Watch this again. We'll take a replay. Corey Mack on the left side of your screen. This is just about a picture-perfect run. Well, except for those little wiggles and those little scooch jobs there. And, well, maybe we can find out about that with Steve Evans at the end of the track.
Corey,
This thing did something evil right there at the finish line.
Yeah, it did. That was a little scary out there, but
what happened?
I don't know. It looks like we got a little wet or tired or something. She was floating, but I was having too much fun winning.
Boy, just looks so different without that mustache. All right, Team Winston, near lane. Connie Coletta, far lane. Team Winston spinning that 460 range. Watch that baby fly. Hello, great run. Selzy, 64. Connie, 68, and he's flying home by now. Kristen Howell and Kenny Bernstein continues this march in round number 2. But take a look at that one again on replay. Mixing up the cylinders a little bit leads you to believe there's more in that Team Winston. Royal Purple, Sequin, Easy Care, all that stuff, and she's only 17 years old. The King of Speed against the Princess. Princess runs 464. Would that be good enough? Nope. Out of here. Bernstein runs 462 and advances into the next round. Watch this in the in-car. Kristen saying, I think I can beat him. I think I can beat him. Whoops, maybe I can't beat him. Now watch her head come forward when she yanks the chute. And say goodbye to the King of Speed. Say goodbye to Kristen.
Kristen, if this was the debutante's ball, you were the belle. What a day.
Thank you very much. I am so happy that we ran a 64. You know, I couldn't wish for more. I mean, I guess we could have won, but I mean, I'm honored that Kenny Mercy was the one. I'm happy for him. He's been running really consistent, 62s all the way. And
a brand new car, Mike Klober, comes out of semi-retirement, just nails him.
Oh, yeah, Mike's doing awesome. We'd like to thank Royal Purple, Rug Doctor, Easy Care, Sequent, my dad, Jim Epler, everyone for helping us out.
You deserve that.
Hey, boys, she would be the only debutante at the ball wearing designer outfits by Simpson. Now watch this in the far lane. It's Joe Amato. Shelly Anderson, who runs like gangbusters here on a home track. Joe has already put down some monster runs. This would be another one. Shelly can see, and that ain't good news. Joe Amato runs 4.56 seconds, picking up the big bucks from MBNA.
Joe Amato set the national record in round 1. You have now dropped it to a 4:56.
4:56. Steve, what can I say? You know, buddy, this is awesome. You know, the whole team, they're doing such a good job, and these Western Auto guys are back home picking on my key parts customers, my A&A, my Keystone. So I take it a personal vengeance to come out here on the track, and I'm gonna have to take my part of it to make the customer short it. But a 56.
As you can see here at the Amato camp, it's a bit of the out with the old, in with the new. That 4:56 run that you just saw Joe Amato make was not only a new national ET record, but it was a very expensive run. As you can see, the crew is in the middle of a massive engine and clutch change in preparation for their semi-final round. Joe Amato told me that this engine is making so much pressure that it's literally lifting the cylinder heads off the motor. But at the same time, he looked at Jimmy Prock and said, Jimmy, we've got lots of parts. If we can do that again, let's go for it.
Gary Selzy never met Corey Mack, at least not in the fuel category. Selzy, the rookie driver in the Team Winston car for Alan Johnson, Kenny Bernstein, and Joe Amato. And Bernstein won that series 2-1 last year. And you know what that means as they go into the semifinals this year? Nothing. Nada. Zero. Zip. We'll take a look at more from Pomona coming up live on TNN. All right, race fans, follow me on this one. We got some good news, bad news, good news, bad news. Good news starts out. Al Hoffman, 1996, near lane, round 1, Chief Winternationals. He's got Mark Sievers from the far side. The good news, Hoffman right down Broadway to get the win and sail into round number 2. Then the bad news, a fire for Mark Sievers from the far lane. Hoffman tries to turn off, and watch it, Al. Bam. That's the bad news. Boy, did that tear up the front of that Western Auto race car. But there would be some more good news for Hoffman. They put the car back together. He goes to the finals. He beats John Force. That's the good news. And he said, I'll beat him 9 more times in a row. He didn't. That was the bad news. Force is still alive. Maybe he and Al will meet up before this day is over. Force has Chuck Etchels, who ran an O in the opening round. Tony Pedregon against Team Winston. And yep, on that other side, going stride for stride, it's Hoffman with Hoover. Gary Bolger takes on Geronimo here in second round action. Let's take a look at some of those round 2 highlights. It would be John Force in the far lane, the Castrol GTX car, the Kendall, the GT1, Super Winch, Dodge Avenger, the 5-flat driver himself, Chuck Etchels. Etchels wants to send a statement, wants to punch out Force in round 2. Oh my, look at that big trouble. First he lost, then he set it on fire, then he brought it to a halt.
Well, Chuck, unfortunately, if you're going to drive a funny car, this is just part of it sometimes.
Yeah, well, it was really my fault. I knew something was wrong. Force is driving away, but, you can't give up on race day. You just can't do it.
No, he did light up early, and you just kind of stayed with it.
Well, I didn't see it early. I knew it was mixing them up pretty good, and I said, until I see it, I'm not going to give up.
Although a fire like you just saw Chuck Etchels experience can be extremely dangerous and potentially life-threatening, today's modern-day funny cars come equipped with an onboard fire suppression system. The 2 10-pound bottles on the front of each funny car are released by a driver inside the cockpit using either a button or a lever. At the first sign of trouble, the driver goes for the switch, activates the fire bottles, and hopefully the fire gets extinguished quickly so the driver can come to a safe and complete stop.
Wow, Chuck Etchels actually said it was his fault. Wonder how many times KC admitted that to his crew chief. Not many. Geronimo, Richard Hartman, Gary Bolger, and the Illinois race car, the Independents. They've seen guys throw down big numbers. You're going to have to run low 5s if you want to advance. I said you're going to have to run low 5s if you want to advance. Nobody pays attention to me. 6:35, and he goes to the next round and said, take that, Fry.
Coming into this race, Richard Hartman in this very car was the track record holder until Force's 491. We know you can run that quick, but you've kind of lost it.
Yeah, ever since that 493 pass, this sucker hasn't made it down the track. We got into a new batch of clutch discs, and we've been fighting it ever since. It won't lock up, but it won't wear enough. We just can't. We don't know what to do. We're lost.
Well, I can help you. I've been lost more times than the average person. Tony Pendragon over there on the far side with that. Yep, Ford. Team Winston, Whit Bazemore. Whit would love to advance and keep pace and put all those red and white cars in the finals. Can he go along with Gary Scelzi? Nope. Tony Pendragon gets the win. That means he gets to talk with our guy, Steve Evans.
Tony, a nice solid 505, but not even in the same league with John Force who you get next round.
Well, not right now. John Medlin, he's plenty slick, and we know we're going to have to get after it a little bit, and it's very nice to get that opportunity to pick up where we left off at the last race and really give the people the race that they wanted to see.
He's such a nice guy. Don't you want to just reach out and pinch his cheeks? Oh, I don't know what came over me. All right, in the near lane, here is Al Hoffman, and there's that red-hot Tom Hoover, the Showtime entry. Hoover's been in the 5.0s, his best showing here in quite some time. Well, he continued to be in the 5.0s. He goes 5.05, but Hoffman goes 5.08 and gets the win. Wow, that's the way they made it through. Round number 2 sets up the semifinals. Force and Tony. Wow, the boss won 9 times last year, won 8 of the 9. There's a surprise. And for the other 2 guys, it's going to be Al Hoffman as he marches into his semifinal matchup against Richard Hartman. They never met. And for Al, that's probably just fine. We've got more action coming up live from the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals right here on TNN. Please don't go away. Pro stock at Pomona has been simply unbelievable. And we've got more great action coming up as the 6-second cars and the assault on the 200-mile-per-hour barrier continues right here live on TNN. Bob Fry along with Casey Spurlock and Steve Evans, and it has just been some spectacular drag racing here this weekend. Let's take a look at the ladder now as we're getting set to go into round number 2 of Pro Stock activity. And there are a bunch of 6-second shooters there. Jim Yates just picking up right where he left off last year. That's the Pontiac now of Pete Williams, George Marnell, and Kurt Johnson. WJ, of course, wants to put the number 1 back on his car for the 4th time. Ricky Smith would try to stop that. Troy and Mark Powick in a battle of the mail order guys. Let's take a look at round number 2 in Pro Stock. Kurt Johnson on the far side, the new look AC Delco machine, and the new daddy. That's George Marnell and his new look Pontiac. Marnell ran an 06 in the opening round, but KJ locked a 7:01. He has been brilliant, and he has been excellent on the starting line. He would be excellent out of the gate again, but it wouldn't make much difference because Marnell fired and fell back to a 10.77. KJ gets the win at a great 6.99. Couple of the big mail order companies right here. The Summit Racing Machine with Mark Pauck in the near lane. On the far side, the new Holly 6-second club member. That's Troy Coughlin in the Jags mail order entry. The key right here might be which driver gets out of the box first. That would be Mark Pauck. Look at the handling job by Jake in the far lane. Wow, 7:01. Mark Pauck goes 7:05, won it on the starting line.
Well, the Cowboy won that quick draw contest. 7:05 beat a 7:01.
Woo! I'll tell you, Steve, you know, after last year, we really struggled. And new group of people at Engine Shop in Ohio, and they've just done a great job. And my driving came in today, but I can't thank Bob and Andy and Scott and Michael more than enough for their hard work over the winter. It's starting to pay off.
Well, you're welcome, Mark. Don't mention it. Oh, it's probably another Bob, huh? Well, hey, look. Warren Johnson and Ricky Smith right here, and we'll take a look at WJ. Ricky Smith now driving one of those Oldsmobile Cutlasses. These cars can run the big speed. Ricky can flat out drive in the starting line. He would hammer Warren Johnson out of the box, but it wouldn't make no never mind. It's an expression that Ricky uses. WJ goes 6.96, a $1.97, gets the win, and gets to talk to Steve Evans.
We're just kind of tiptoeing through this thing right now because we've been having a few problems with this car not going straight down the racetrack, but I believe the GM Performance Parts Pontiacs will be all right.
Never completely happy. If he was, it wouldn't be Warren Johnson.
The proud grandpa, but the thought of Warren Johnson tiptoeing anywhere, oh, well, I'd rather not think about it. Jim Yates has gone 6s all weekend long. The McDonald's car would like to march on into the semis. He knows that WJ has already gotten there. Pete Williams, the pallet man out of Alabama. Somewhere Eli Gold's watching on TNN going roll tide. Well, even Eli couldn't help the Alabama driver here. Jim Yates gets the win. Goes to round 3.
WJ fires off a 6.96. Jim Yates counters with his own 6.96. I think the table is set for this season between you two.
Well, I tell you, there's a lot of parity right now between Warren and us, but the track seems to be coming around. The car was real smooth on that run. I'm surprised it didn't pick up a little bit.
Great job.
Jim Yates looks good without that mustache. Oh, he never had a mustache. I'm sorry. Yates and KJ last time. How about Jim Yates? 5-3 over KJ, and I bet you Kurt remembers all of those losses. WJ and the Cowboy didn't meet at all in 1996. WJ just takes them all one at a time. Pro Stock all set for the semifinals. We've got more coming up live. Whoa, baby. One of those big honking fuel motors coming up next.
It's obvious that you're not going to be out there running this round.
Welcome back to Pomona as we get set to stroll down historic Parker Avenue right here at the Fairplex. Bob Fry with Casey Spurlock and Steve Evans. And whoa, just a breather during that commercial timeout as we get set to look at some semifinal activity. And we got some dynamite cars. 465, you were the slowest car in that semifinal round. Let's go into the pit area, catch up with Steve Evans.
Well, you know, Joe Amato has been posting those huge numbers, but at great expense. Take a look at this. It amounts to a bullet a round. They got a main cap here. They got a crankshaft over there, a bunch of pistons. But as Casey said earlier, Amato said to his crew chief, hey, I don't care how much we have to spend. Let's go out there, run more 50s. Let's win the Winternationals. And here was Joe Amato up against Kenny Bernstein.
What a monster matchup. Two of the cars that most experts figure will go at it for the Winston Championship along with Gary Sells in the Alan Johnson car. Kenny Bernstein runs a 461 and Amato again in the 450 range. 4.58 for Joe Amato, 315 miles an hour, and he will be our first finalist. Let's go down to the pits in KC.
The second semifinal race in Top Fuel stood to be an incredible race. We had Corey Mack in the McDonald's car up against Gary Scelzi in the Winston Dragster. Both of these cars have been running great all weekend long. Nobody knew who was going to win this race. Let's see that semifinal race and see who was going to go into the final round to match up with Joe Amato.
Okay, folks, so I have an advantage. I've seen this before, but watch this drag race. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Hang on. Whoa, Corey Mack almost went over. And Gary Scelzi gets the win at a 469, 306 miles an hour. Team Winston's in the final and in the pits with Casey Spurlock.
Gary, you had a great semifinal round. First professional race in Top Fuel, your #1 qualifier. You're going to the finals up against a great opponent. Do you need a little advice from somebody who's been there before, or do you think you can handle this one on your own?
I'll take all the help I can get, Casey. Can you give me a little advice? I'm so excited. I mean, who would have thought that this would have happened on the first weekend out, you know, with a Top Fuel team like this? It's outstanding.
I think Gary Scelzi is going to do just fine in this sport. Let's go over to Steve Evans to talk to Joe Amato.
Joe Amato, do you even know Gary Scelzi?
Yeah, Steve, I've met him, but I know Alan Johnson and that whole team, and you know he's an old alcohol guy like I am, and I'm sure he's going to be real tough. He's young lion. He wants to rip my heart out. I know that.
But these days, you really can't pull any tricks on the starting line to confuse a young driver. The balance of the car, burning off fuel, is so important.
No, you go up there with a good attitude. You just go up there and try and race your lane. We're not going to play no games. We're going to go up there and just try and do more. We're going to have Snoopy riding on one shoulder, and my whole team behind me. Jimmy Prock and my guys are doing such a good job. You know, we're working on a sponsor possible, and they're missing out on a lot of good TV ink here. But for all my fans back home and the Keystone Key Parts guys, we love you.
He loves you. He loves you. And I tell you one thing, Joe Amato knows this is his race to lose. The ball's in his court. Bob?
What's the sport come to? One guy's rooting for Snoopy on his shoulder. The other guy's looking to Spurlock for advice. Is nothing sacred. We'll take a look at more funny car action when we come back live to Pomona. Commercial transportation for this broadcast has been provided by Ryder, the official transportation company for Opryland. Pomona Raceway, and it's starting to get a bit dark out there and a bit cool, and boy, that means we ought to have some great times out there. Unbelievable what we've seen so far. I told you at the top of the show that we're going to hype this thing and show you the best round of Top Fuel ever, and we did that. 465 was the slowest winning time in a round, and then we got some funny car semifinals coming up, and of course a couple of team boys still getting set to slug it out down there. Let's go back to the pit area, and another funny car champ from right here at Pomona. It's Hollywood.
The first semifinal round matchup in funny car was going to be an all-team force final. Tony Pedregon against the boss, John Force. Now, John Force had a performance advantage going into this round. Tony hadn't been running up to the boss's level. But as we saw last year, there was not going to be any pulling for this race. Tony Pedregon was going to go right into this round and try to beat the boss and put him on his trailer. Let's take a look at that semifinal round race.
That's right. It should be a pretty good race. In fact, I think that Tony Pedregon can beat him. Of course, I thought the Patriots could win the Super Bowl, and I was pretty sure Bob Dole was going to the White House. Well, at least my streak's intact. And there goes Force. Check it out. 392, 305 miles per hour. Awesome numbers for anybody that would be waiting to meet him in the final.
John Force, you're going into this final round appearance against your old nemesis, Al Hoffman, in a position that you're not used to. You don't have lane choice.
Well, that's the way it is. I ain't getting no younger, but either is Al. But his hot rod's running real good. But I got a new sponsor, All Pro Bumper to Bumper. I'm trying to impress. Maybe I can do it right here.
There you heard it. John Force doesn't seem to be worried. Let's see what's happening in the other pit area.
Hey, KC, tell Force to lose the glasses. Here we go. Here's that other semifinal. It's Al. I really want to beat John Force more than anything else in the world, Hoffman. And over there on the other side of the race course, Richard Hartman, the Geronimo car, who by his own admission has not been running well. Look at that, Al Hoffman, 490, 311 miles an hour. Big numbers. That might be a little bit more than Force can handle today.
And I have to tell you, Bob, and everyone at home, I admire this man greatly. I haven't always said that, but I do right now. With no sponsor, you came all the way across the country, burned the car down, come back, run in the fours. Now you're in the final round, just like you were a year ago against John Force. What do you think?
I think I got the best crew chief in the business right now. Jimbo Armilovich, my whole crew. I mean, Jimbo's doing a great job, and I'm just doing the same thing I always did, sit in the car and get it down to the other end. And so far, it's worked out round by round, and the car's really starting to step up. I think I'm going to see some really big numbers before the end of the year.
And Al has a shot at a...
You know what?
He's got it.
You know what? Even I don't want to pinch Al Hoffman's cheeks, but hey, he's in the finals there, and he's probably pinching himself to see if this thing is real, because he has put 490s on the board. He's run 311 miles an hour, and he's got a leg up on the mile-per-hour speed record here. So we have got great live finals coming up here on TNN. TNN's exclusive live coverage of the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals is brought to you by Mopar, Chrysler Corporation Parts, the Chrysler, Plymouth, Dodge, Jeep, and Eagle dealers who sell and install them. Hi, Mom. Always wanted to say that. And the crowd goes wild as we get set for finals coming up live here on TNN, the season opener, the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals at Pomona, live here on TNN. And the final four, it's going to be Johnson, Yates, and Powick. Sounds like a cheap law firm, doesn't it? Mark Powick's the only guy of the bunch that has not been in the 7-second range, and if he doesn't get in the sevens in that semifinals, he could be in big trouble because the other cars are all running extremely well. Let's take a look at how they ran in the semifinals of Pro Stock here at Pomona.
Kurt Johnson versus Jim Yates in the final four of Pro Stock. What's the big difference? Well, Jim Yates will always get Richard Maskin's best motor. Kurt Johnson will always play second fiddle. The better motor will be in his dad's car, WJ, and I think that accounts for the performance difference in round number 2. $6.99 for Kurt, $6.96 for Yates, and I don't see that changing. Kurt's best hope is to weld the champ on the starting line, but Jim is so relaxed now after winning the Winston Championship in this race a year ago. I don't see that happening either.
It's Final Four play, and here comes the Cowboy, who this time last year was laughing it up with Jay Leno. Well, the semifinal match with Warren Johnson is anything but a laughing matter. And as I said, if you can't run in the sixes, you might as well park it. WJ throws out a 692, 198.63 mile per hour shot. He is just awesome here today.
Semifinal race in Pro Stock between Warren Johnson and Mark Powick is definitely a race of heavily sponsored teams. Both Pontiacs have extreme amounts of horsepower through the efforts of Mark Power's team over the winter and Warren Johnson's team as well. Mark Powick won his second round race with a hole shot. Warren Johnson probably has a horsepower advantage in this semifinal round, and Mark Powick is going to need every bit he can pull together on that starting line to try to get past the professor. He definitely doesn't want to be taught a lesson today.
Well, got a feeling that happened, huh? The Cowboy, the Summit Racing Machine, and Warren Johnson. And as you know, WJ is just a little bit too strong. He is one leg up on a new national record. If indeed he can back that up, he can collect $12,500 from the folks at MBNA for a brand new world record. Hey, bet you beats him twice. Hey, it's a gift. How do I know that? So WJ is one half of the semifinals here at Pomona, and the GM Performance Parts car is just doing a wonderful job. So is Steve Evans.
The proudest I have ever seen WJ was, what, half an hour ago when your kid, Kurt, took out Jim Yates. You actually came over and congratulated your son. I've never seen you do that.
Well, this thing is going to be a heads-up deal all year long. We brought Troy Coughlin in on this program, and it's going to be a straight heads-up deal. He did his job. Now, hopefully, I can do my job against him.
By a heads-up deal, you mean you're going up there, you're going to give him the benefit of any experience or any parts or anything you have. You're going to give him the best you've got to beat you?
Exactly. He's got the access to everything I've got in my trailer, and I've got access to everything in his trailer, and we're out there to race to the best of our ability.
You started calling the grandson the Lucky Charm, but who would know you would both make the final? Maybe he truly is.
Well, you never can tell. I hope so.
if that's true, every pro stocker will try to get a grandkid. I can tell you that. Casey Spurlock.
Kurt, brand new colors for 1997, but that same awesome Johnson horsepower. Are you going to give the old man a break, or are you going to go for the throat in this final round?
Well, you know, Dad, he's been trying to beat me into shape for years, and I guess I do owe him partial credit for getting me to where I am today. And we're going to see if we can teach him a few tricks in the final. You know, the performance parts car and the AC Delco car, they're within 4 or 5 horsepower on a dyno, so this should be a real good race.
You do have very similar horsepower in both of these cars, but you've always been a little quicker on the starting line. Are you going to go up there and try to cut a light, see if you can beat him on reaction time, or do you think you've got a little horsepower here, maybe something you did between the rounds?
Now, after that 92 run, you know, that was pretty stout out there. He's got a few horsepower on me. I put all the engines together at the shop and dyno them all. I know he's got a few horsepower. We're going to see if we can cut a light on him, maybe a 410 light, and hopefully he'll go brain dead on the starting line and we can get that win light.
Good luck out there, Kurt. Bob, let's go back to you.
Oh, nice way to talk about your dad, your kid's grandfather. Hope he goes brain dead. 4-0 light, that'll probably get you into the winner's circle. However, it'll be the Pro Stock Finals coming up right here live on TNN from Pomona. The Chief Auto Parts Winternationals live on TNN. Brought to you by Mopar, Chrysler Corporation Parts, and the Chrysler, Plymouth, Dodge, Jeep, and Eagle dealers who sell and install them. We are now set for the finals, live from Pomona, here on TNN. The opening race of the 1997 Winston Drag Racing Series, the Chief Auto Parts Winternationals. A great crowd on hand, and hey, got to be honest, we plugged that Chamber of Commerce in the morning show, but it's a bit on the cool side right now. We have seen some 690s in Pro Stock. We heard rumors of 680s in testing and 200 miles an hour, and who knows, that might be on the horizon here as we get set for the finals. They start to roll those two cars around and get them into place. The AC Delco car in the near side, and it will be Dad, Grandpa, WJ tiptoeing in to the far side of the racetrack. Warren Johnson has had a great time here in the past, looking to win this thing for the 4th time. Let's go into the staging lanes now and a comment from KC.
I'm standing here with Gary Claudio from Pontiac, and I just asked him, Gary, which car do you want to win? And he looked at me and he said, honestly, doesn't really matter to me. Both of them are Pontiacs. Both of them are from the Warren Johnson stables. I'm going to be just as happy. It doesn't really matter.
For you naysayers at home that heard Warren Johnson say this will be a heads-up battle between me and my kid, and you don't believe it, well, I frankly do, because Warren told me, it's no secret, a few times I made him go in the tank. I felt so bad about it. It caused problems within our family. It just wasn't worth it. I don't want to break my kid's spirit. This is a drag race.
The only guy to win this race more times than Warren Johnson is Bob Glidden. He did it 7 times. By the way, for the Ford folks, you didn't see Bob in any of our highlights. He failed to make the cut here this weekend. WJ won this thing in 87, again in 93, and 94, the GM Performance Parts Machine. There's a guy that's bringing out 3 race cars this season to test, to race. A Jerry Haas car, a Don Ness machine, and a race car by Rick Jones that he really likes, and we might see that at some of the tracks down in Dallas and Houston. KJ and the AC Delco machine, and WJ, our first final of the 1997 racing season. All right, Steve Evans, first pick of the year. Who do you like?
I like Warren Johnson. I think that 692 national record shocked him, shocked everybody. We didn't expect that kind of performance here at Pomona. Like Kurt told KC, I got to try to leave on him and hope he goes brain dead. I don't think Warren will.
KC, what do you think? I mean, you're an old fuel guy. Do you know anything about pro stockers?
Well, I know that I have a similar motor in my street car, but that's about as far as it goes. But I'm going to have to go with Kurt Johnson here. He has the reaction time advantage against his father, and the horsepower is very, very close. I'm going to go with Kurt. Youth before experience.
Well, I kind of agree with KC Hollywood Spurlock, and I'd like to tell you why. I'd like to, but there's no real reason for it. I figure since he took those glasses off, he's seeing the world in a whole different new light. Kurt Johnson, Warren Johnson, first final of the 1997 season, live on TNN. Advantage Kurt out of the gate. Can he hold on to the top end? No. WJ goes 6.96, 197 miles an hour. Kurt slows to a 7 flat, 197 miles per hour. Warren Johnson had a brilliant 1:02 60-foot time, and that is unbelievable. One of the best that we have seen in national event competition. We'll take a look at it again, and kudos to Steve Evans, the only one of the three here that picked it. WJ, a little tardy out of the starting gate, but he had too much horsepower for the kid as he just drives by him at the top end of the race course. It's not by much, but you don't have to win by much. WJ beats KJ and gets the WIN. Robert Gordon and Greg Anderson, the crew guys that worked so very hard on Warren's car, happy about the win. Steve?
Well, Warren Johnson, it went kind of true to form. The kid got the jump and you gunned him down.
Barely, I'll tell you. I think we broke a valve spring or something because it's laid down in the middle of the track, and I could see that fender right there, and I figured, just hang on.
And you believe a 1:02 60-foot time?
Geez, we amaze ourselves sometimes, don't we? That's excellent for this racetrack.
Had it not been for that broken valve spring, we might have seen 200 miles an hour. Lisa from Cheap Auto Parts, give this man a hat. Give this man a trophy as we salute Warren Johnson, the first Winston champion of 1997.
You know, folks, this is a historic moment because twice today we saw Warren Johnson smile. You'd be smiling, too, if you led the points. A lot of racing to go, but, hey, WJ is number one. The kid, the champ, the cowboy, and the 6-second guy round out the top 5. After one event, it's tricky. It's Pete the Pallet Guy, George Marnell, the new look, Jerry Ekman, and the Engine Whiz, rounding out your top 10 in points. Coming up next, right here, it's going to be our finals in the Fuel Funny Car. Ain't no love lost between these guys. John Force and Al Hoffman, who wants to rip his throat out. It's a figure of speech. Stick around.
Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by this special offer from Diamond P.
NHRA Drag Racing 1996, a year packed with excitement and emotion, a year that you should remember. To order, just dial the 1-800 number on your screen. You can relive King Kenny Bernstein's 318-mile-per-hour run, John Force capturing his unprecedented 6th Winston Drag Racing Championship, Jim Yates marching to his first Pro Stock Championship, and Angel Sealing pounded her Pro Stock bike to a new national record. Drag Racing 96, order it now.
We have got the final in Fuel Funny Car coming up, and the setting sun. It's a tad cool, but this rivalry is red hot. Hoffman and Force, this is a classic.
It is indeed, Bob Fry. We all know they're great rivals, but let me tell you, Thursday afternoon, after Al Hoffman had a serious fire, Force went to his trailer and said, you need a body, I got a body. You need a whole car, I'll give you a whole car. And Hoffman said, damn, I hate it when he does that. I got to be nice to him for 2 or 3 days.
Well, there's probably a great reason that John Force did that. When he rips Al Hoffman's throat out, he wants to do it fair and square. It's no secret that there's no love lost between these two. And Al Hoffman has to be thinking to himself right now, I've seen Austin Coyle pull a rabbit out of his hat before in these situations. In fact, I've been hit by the fur a few times. He's a little nervous in that other lane. He may be quick, but he knows Force can step up and be quicker.
John Force has won this race twice, but it has not been a good event for him. Heck, even Al Segrini's won this race 4 times than Force.
I really believe that John Force will avenge his loss of a year ago. Remember, Force had that race in hand when something happened at about 1,100 feet, and he lost it by inches. I don't think Austin Coyle is going to let that happen again. But it has cooled off. They better not be too aggressive. This racetrack might not hold it.
It's a great rivalry. It's like Army-Navy, the Yankees and the Red Sox, Spurlock and Segrini. All right, so I made that last one up. We could see a record-setting time right here. Al Hoffman has already won once on a hole shot, and he is the quicker car coming into this round. Ladies and gentlemen, TNN presents the finals. Funny cars from Pomona. however, got it off the starting line, and John Force goes 4.95, 287 miles an hour, and Al Hoffman just coasting down there. Force gets the win, and ironically, Hoffman looked like John Force did on the starting line here when we were last at Pomona, when he smoked him in that anniversary car of his. But John Force gets the nod at 4.95, 287. We'll take a look at it again on replay. There won't be a whole lot to watch from the car in the near lane. Look at that. That puppy didn't move 30 feet, and it was shooting and spitting and coughing and banging. And John Force just kept on trucking. Well, so he had a few candles go out before the quarter-mile mark. That's how he'd say it. But John Force gets the win. Steve?
John Boy, what a difference a year can make. Revenge is sweet.
Every year, Steve, you get older, you kind of wonder if you just keep pulling them out of the hat. Good old racer Hoffman did a great job. This Pontiac actually hummed. Castro, Mac, Tool, Action, Fram, all the people, they love us. But we're back in Pomona. It's drag racing time for NHRA and Winston. And I love them Oscars. Thank you, Wally.
He's got another one coming. But, John, this track wasn't going to hold more than you ran, I don't think. It got too cold.
We really were watching that because you remember last year Al beat us here. Then we came back in the final here. And I don't know what happened, but it don't matter. I got a new sponsor on board, All Pro, bumper to bumper. We're excited about it. Travis Trent, we're on tour. And I'm just the same old fat truck driver as I ever was. I ain't changed driver of the year or not. Don't care. Let's go.
He's just a richer fat old trucker, Bobby.
And the guys at the starting line, the guys that really make it happen, the Castrol crew, and they get a chance to celebrate, and rightfully so. And there's the points. John Force along with Travis Trent. I think the new song will be called I'm Just the Same Old Fat Truck Driver, Do Like a Do. Pedregon, Hartman, Etchels round out the top five. Force gets out of the starting gate first. That could be a death knell for the rest of the guys in this class. There's the rest of the top 10. We got our final. Is that redundant? Redundant? Coming up next, it's going to be Gary Scelzi and the Team Winston car getting set to see if he can win his first against the veteran Joe Amato. That final's coming up next. TNN's exclusive live coverage of the Cheap Auto Parts Winternationals is brought to you by Pennzoil Motor Oil, first to fully achieve the tougher 1997 GF2 performance standard. And by Mopar, Chrysler Corporation Parts, and the Chrysler, Plymouth, Dodge, Jeep, and Eagle dealers who sell and install them. The Top Fuel final getting set to come up live, and it's going to be Gary Scelzi and Joe Amato. This should be some fun. Casey?
This may be the toughest race of the day to call. We know that both of these teams are making more horsepower than any other team in the Top Fuel pit area. But with the track cooling down, the track could play a major factor in this. Both of these cars could smoke the tires. If that happens, it could be a driver's race. The nod would have to go to Amato.
Melancholy moment this must be for Alan Johnson. Let's not forget, a year ago today at this exact hour, he was in this same position with his brother Blaine Johnson at the wheel, who was fatally injured at the U.S. Nationals last year. Alan's got to be thinking, oh my, what if? But Gary Scelzi is becoming a surrogate son to Ezra and a stepbrother to Alan Johnson.
That kind of said it all. That is Alan Johnson. Now, Gary Scelzi has been a great driver. He won 4 races on the points trail last year in the alcohol category. He won right here at this racetrack back in 1986, winning in the alcohol dragster category. He will have his hands full right here with the consummate champion in Top Fuel, Joe Amato. And how about that? It wasn't pretty, but Gary Scelzi gets the win at 771, 231 miles an hour. KC hit that baby right on the head. Conditions change. You try to overpower it, you could go up in smoke, and if it's a driver's race, it should be Joe Amato. KC, you were going so good right up to that point. on again, off again. Gary Scelzi gets the win, and watch both drivers right out of the gate strike the tires almost immediately. Amato already up in smoke in the far lane. Scelzi smokes him here in the Team Winston car, and he gets that puppy sideways. Wow. Looked like the Atlanta final last year with Larry Dixon and Mike Dunn and Gary Scelzi. I think I can. Man, Amato hopped that right up on the wheel. That's why he smoked his. Look at Scelzi. How about that? Gary Scelzi on the throttle again and gets his first ever win in Top Fuel. Steve?
Gary Scelzi, rookie, where did you ever learn to pedal a car like that?
I don't know. I kept waiting for him to come by me, and I mean, it blew the tires off so hard I couldn't believe it.
You had to be wondering if the engine was going to stand that kind of abuse.
I didn't think so. I mean, I just kept hitting and kept going. I never seen him. I just kept hitting. I thought I was John Force out there.
Those cars get a little hard to control when you're trying to do that, rocking up and back.
I needed a Mack truck steering wheel in there to drive it, but we didn't hit anything, and I think the wind light came on. That's why you're here, huh?
And you're looking at a superstar of the future. And here is Joe Amato. Oh, man, that was wild.
Yeah, Steve. Yeah, I saw him. I smoked the tires the minute I stepped on it, and I tried to get back on it. My blower belt came off because it must have hydraulic or something when I tried to get back on it. And I saw him out there, and he's stumbling. I'm saying, maybe you'll go over to the center line or do something like, I need God help, But
I was trying.
You did a good job, and
Thank you.
You're going to be tough all year, and Alan Johnson and the boys. But I can only say Jimmy Prock, we ran 3 450s. We kept the national record. 456. I'm impressed. Would love to win the race.
You were the man.
We would love to win the race, but I guess the track might have cooled off a little too much. We didn't really have it hopped up at all, but what can you say? For all our sponsors and all, we love you, and you guys did a good job.
I don't have to fill when I got Joe Amato, Bob.
Must have been that advice that Scelzi got from Spurlock down there after the semifinals. Well, Gary Scelzi now in the catbird seat. Joe Amato, KB, Corey Mack, and Shelley. And a lot of these drivers, like Scelzi, out of the alcohol ranks. Amato was there, Shelley was there, Kristen Powell was there, Scott Coletta was there. How about that? So Joe Amato with a sensational run, but not good enough in the final. Although Amato is our Mopar high performer, the brand new national record, and the cash from the folks at MBNA. Lots of money, but for this race, at least, bragging rights go to Team Winston, to Alan Johnson, and their driver, Gary Scelzi. A spectacular performance here today, and what a great season opener we had here on TNN. Don't forget tonight at 9 p.m., Bill Dance Outdoors and Go Fish. I believe that's a card game. No, I know better than that. Tonight, right here on TNN. This was a sensational season opener, ladies and gentlemen. Take a look at the final race. One of the few times we'll have a race with tire smoke that will still go down as a spectacular way to cap off a day of drag racing. The Team Winston machine with a great win here today. The Chief Auto Parts Winternationals, a presentation of Diamond P Sports in association with the Nashville Network, leaders in live motorsports television.